podcast. Yeah. Welcome everybody to Clang the podcast, now sponsored by the wonderful people at DRC Shipping. What do their services include, Pete?
So they include warehousing, pick, pack, fulfillment, air freight import and export, ocean freight import and export, road freight to and from all major European cities, and they're pharma specialists. They've also got a specialism in publisher services, so exporting magazines and books worldwide.
Fantastic. For all your shipping needs and the export-import business, DRC Shipping, everybody. Check their website out. Now, enjoy the podcast. Hello, Clangers. Welcome to this latest edition of Clang the podcast. We're going up. We're getting better by the week. We're getting better guests. That's nothing against the other guests. You've all been fab. However, can I just say, for me personally, and for all you sport and music fans, it doesn't get much better than this. This man is I'm really chuffed to say we've become very good friends. He's a very famous England cricketer. He's a fabulous cricket pundit on Sky. He's also one of my favourite singer-songwriters. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mark Butcher. How's that? Did I read it right, Butch, after you sent it?
Yeah, right. Seriously, do you want VAT? As well?
I think that sums you up perfectly well. Thank you very much. How are you, my friend?
Yes, I'm very good. It's been too long since we've seen each other in the flesh, so this is the next best thing.
It is. The last time I think we saw each other was in a rehearsal room, I think with Andy Lewis, where we just smashed it out. Or was it? No, I'll tell you when I saw you. I saw you at a gig. You did a brilliant guest appearance at the 100 Club. Do you remember? Whose band was that? The cricket guy.
Well, it was organised by Charles Dagnall and Henry Moran, who works for the BBC.
That's
for
right.
Teenage Cancer Trust. Yeah.
It was brilliant.
And I suppose it's quite poignant actually, because today it is the first Clang of the night. Today I think would have been Bernie Marsden's 73rd birthday.
Yeah.
And on that particular night that you mentioned, bizarre how these things come up in it. On that particular night you mentioned, I did one of my favourite sort of Bernie Marsden written or co-written Whitesnake numbers.
Yeah.
Whose name bloody escapes me now because I wasn't planning on telling this story. But
Doesn't
and there you go. So you bring it up.
Loved it, mate. Honestly,
Bernie passed away sadly during the course
really
of the last winter. And
I thought that went under the radar a little bit as well, didn't you? I don't think that was made as big a deal of that it should have been, because he was a bit of a ledge.
I wonder if I guess Whitesnake kind of then went onto sort of bigger and better things when they broke the States or whatever. The sort of like the 70s lineup dissipated, and it was sort of Coverdale and people like Steve Vai and whatever. And it became a very different thing to what it started out as, which was kind of like ex-members of Deep Purple and Bernie, and then it became sort of like this metal behemoth thing. And I don't know. I think he kind of was forgotten. And if his name hadn't been on the rights for Here I Go Again, then even more people wouldn't have known. Might not have known who he was. But he's an incredible guitar player, wonderful singer. Loved sort of Peter Green and that sort of style. Freddie King, Albert King style blues, and whatever, and was just a really generous bloke, and kind of was an incredible support to me in my sort of early days as of playing guitar and trying to perform and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And as such, I was devastated when I heard he'd passed.
Yeah. No, he's a legend, and any musician would say the same thing. So I think we're going to have to split this into, this is Pete's idea, right? And I agree with you here, Pete, because you're kind of such a multifaceted, you've got sport on the left, you've got music on the right, and I've heard a couple of your clangs recently, and they've been amazing. But I said to Pete, he said a load of clangs today, not one cricket one was in there, and Pete was like, I'm not having that. I'm not having that. I think we might have to take you back a little bit and ask you from a kind of, obviously because you were a player and now you're a pundit, I suppose it's a little bit like when you know someone? Can you clang them when you know someone? Answer: yes, you can.
Right. Okay.
Hence what I'm doing right now.
Thanks for clarifying.
No, I'm just saying, man.
But also having said that, it's kind of like it's always really interesting when you get people that are up there and the people that you know, like yourself, Mark, and it's kind of like, you know, you might not see, you know, Phil Tufnell as a clang. I do. Yeah, but it's kind of like, you know, but it's just because you work, you know, because they're guys you see every day, you know, like Nasser Hussain. It's like, you know, they're all these guys that you're just like, oh God, not them again.
Work colleagues now, aren't they?
Exactly.
I suppose,
exactly.
But back in the cricketing days, all the cricketing gods. What were your kind of biggest clangs? Because, you know, come on, Ned. Did you meet Richie? That's the first one.
I did meet Richie. I met Richie and Bill Lawry, who were kind of like two of the. Well, I suppose for people who know their cricket, obviously know great Australian players in their own right. But for people who kind of are not all that au fait with cricket, they were also the two best voices on the 12th Man. Yeah. Like comedy commentary tapes from
one of
out
my
of Australia.
favourite things ever.
Absolutely sensational. If you don't know what we're talking about, look up the 12th Man and check it out. It's very, very funny. And on my Test debut in '97, we got, funnily enough, we got delayed. It was Ashes Test, rain delay. Didn't start for maybe, I don't know, an hour and a half in the morning. And myself and Adam Hollyoake, who probably might pop up one or two times over the course of this, went to go and seek out Richie and Bill Lawry. Richie, for the obvious reason that, you know, he was kind of the doyen, the legend of the voice of cricket, I suppose, at the time. But Bill Lawry, because we reckon he'd go really well in the Big Nose Gang that Adam and I had decided we'd set up, because his proboscis is the most astonishing thing, you know. From you know, obviously you got the old lip mics in the commentary boxes, and his used to hang about 7 inches below the lip thing. So we found Bill, and Bill very kindly agreed to have his photograph taken with us by one of the people didn't have mobile phones they were clicking away with then, so by one of the official sports photographers, and we also managed to get one of us all profile, which I've got somewhere. But
and he had no idea what you were doing.
I had no idea we were going down this road. He had no idea what we were doing. So Adam and I hung this photograph on the inside of our lockers at the Oval for something like, you know, for 15 years or whatever. Amazing, the Big Nose Gang. The two of us on sort of Test match debut, and Bill Lawry in the middle.
And you did this before the match?
Fantastic.
During the delay?
Well, it was raining. We had, you know, things were a lot more a lot more loose back then than they are now.
Yeah,
so we were, you know, we went up the gantry and went to go and find them, you know.
That's amazing.
Yeah. But speaking about commentary, have you done Radio 4, the Test match special on Radio 4, or Test match commentary?
Well, yeah,
it's
what is it now? It's on.
It's on 5 Live.
5 Live Sport, or 5 Sport
because
Extra, or whatever.
That always struck me, that you had to be. There was a certain breed of person that could do that. And the ability, I can't remember who it was, but the ability to commentate on a match while also commentating on the progress of a moth across the inside of the commentary box window.
Henry Blofeld, I would have thought.
Well, I think it was Blowers, actually, yeah.
More than likely. And you know, Blowers, an absolute legend, managed to work with him a few times before he sort of retired from the game.
Did he call you dear old thing?
His eyes packed in. Everyone was dear old thing. He couldn't remember anyone's name. It was kind of
he was honestly those. I'll tell you what was great as well. Those long nights where you were listening to when you were in Australia. So you would like kind of start listening at about kind of 10 o'clock, and then as you or watching it, and as you were starting to drift off, you'd leave it on overnight, and the lilt of the cricket. Kind of, I still do it now. If there's an overnight game, I go into dreams about the score, and I wake up and go, amazing. We're like 400 for none. No, we're not. We're bowled out for 82. You know, it kind of incorporates me. But yeah, I used to fall asleep to it, man. It was amazing. So I love the fact that you went looking. Look, that's a proper starstruck moment, Richie. Isn't it?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and I wouldn't have brought it up, but for sure. And mainly actually because of the comedian, you know, who's again, whose name escapes me, but I've never met him.
Yes.
But I remember, I think Richie was very, very upset about the whole thing,
I
about the
read
whole
that.
12-man thing.
He didn't like it, did he?
But the other guys, Tony Gregg and Bill and Max Walker and people thought it was the best thing ever. You know, it kind of turned them into absolute sort of legends and superstars beyond, you know, the world of cricket.
Yeah.
Did you ever get kind of with with players? Because obviously, if you're playing, but the legendary players, like the kind of, I suppose later when you were maybe co-commentating or something with them, then you weren't a player, like, you know, your Viv Richardson, your Bothams and stuff like that. Were they what you thought they would be when you met them?
Well, I played against Viv. I played against Ian Botham. I played against David Gower.
Wow.
They were still just about going as I was starting. I mean, I sort of signed for Surrey in the sort of autumn of 1989. Played my first year as a professional in 1990, and then I think I made my first ice debut in 92. By which time I'd managed to play against, you know, Gooch carried on for a little bit longer, but I'd managed to play against Viv. I'd managed to play against Beefy. I'd managed to play against and bowl at Gower. I got Ian both. Here's a clang for you. I bowled one ball in professional cricket at Ian Botham and knocked his middle stump out at the Oval.
Well, that'll do then.
It was his last game ever at the Oval, so it was quite a big deal. He was playing for Durham at the time, and I was a sort of, you know, young tyro playing in it was a Sunday League game. And I swear to God, I was shitting myself at the thought of having to bowl at this guy that I'd watched, you know, smoke it everywhere at Headingley in '81 and the various incredible feats that he'd pulled off since. And I'm just thinking, right, I've got to bowl this ball as fast as I possibly can, you know. And I wasn't fast, but you know, it was kind of the idea that I had to try actually hit the middle of the pitch and try and get the thing to go sort of chest height, so that he couldn't just whack me straight back over my head, right? That was the thought going through my head after I'd been thrown the ball. And I tear in and I let go of this thing and it comes out. I miss my length by probably about 5 metres, and it turns out to be the perfect in-swinging Yorker and knocks him over.
Did he take it well, or did he give you the look?
No, he was very, very upset. He was so upset. Because back in those days, in the days when it used to be the Hobbs Gate, which still is the Hobbs Gate, but it looks completely different now than it did back then. I was coming out the gate, and to the right of it was the old tavern, right? And all the players would go in there and drink. They'd all get jacket and tie on and then go and have a drink. And as I'm walking through the Hobbs Gate, feeling quite chuffing myself, I hear both Beefy talking to a fan or a friend or something going. He said, and who would have thought it? After all this fucking time playing at this ground, I get knocked over by fucking Butcher as I walk past it.
I think I would have gone, there you go.
Yeah, there you are. Stand aside, old man. But then, you know, then of course, I worked my first gig as a commentator. 2003, the World Cup was on in South Africa. I wasn't involved, so I was asked by Sky Sports if I'd go down and commentate. I was playing for Test cricket at the time. And I go out there and I get billeted with Holding, Gower and Botham. And we sort of travel around the wilds in like places like Kimberley and wherever. And I think we ended up in Johannesburg at some point, doing sort of commentating on matches around the place, staying in little B&Bs. You know, spending evenings just sat at the table having dinner with these guys that I'd loved. You know, I never played against Mikey, and people who were absolute heroes to me when I was a kid. You know, I won't tell you whether you should meet your heroes or not, but yeah. Mikey was an absolute legend. Gower and I to this day are kind of like have been good friends, and Beefy, to be fair to him, was a lot of fun too. So, you know, incredibly generous. And would drink very, very hard for a very short period of time and then go to sleep. Brilliant.
I was going to say that's to keep up with them from a like a drinking point of view, must have been a bit.
Let me put a sort of double-sided question, to you, I suppose. Really, it's like, who's the most terrifying bowler you've ever faced, and who is the one person who's the bowler that you're really glad that you never did have to face?
Ooh. Okay, both West Indians. The first being Curtly Ambrose, who I play, whose kind of career, his career was kind of like coming towards the end as mine was beginning. I suppose no, he was probably in his prime around about 97, 98, or only just getting a little bit on the older side. And he was terrified because I wasn't good enough. I wasn't equipped well enough to kind of like to deal with him bowling at sort of like test match level. I played against him a lot when he was playing for Northamptonshire, for Surrey, and kind of had a false representation of then what it was like, because he was good enough to bowl well within himself and he was playing in sort of first class cricket. But then there were occasions in a series, 1997, 1998, where it was just like, I've got no idea what I'm doing here and I think he might kill me. So that wasn't fun. It would have been wonderful to kind of like maybe 2-3 years later, when I kind of could handle myself a bit better, to have gone through that test again. But clearly he'd retired by then, so that wasn't to be. And somebody that I was glad I didn't face. I mean, Jeff Thompson looked like. I mean, Tomo, as well as being the most elastic man that I've ever met, fabulous drinker, is also a stand-up comedian. Also a stand-up comedian. But there was a period of time there in the early to mid 70s where he just looked utterly terrifying to bat against. And the other one might well have been Patrick Patterson, actually, who played as an overseas player for Lancashire. My old man would have faced him quite a bit.
Okay.
But I never had the pleasure, because it looked horrific again. So I was quite pleased. I was too young to have caught up with him.
Do you think, Mark, the crossover between sport and music, did you catch that, where all sportsmen want to be a musician and all musicians want to be a sportsman? So when you see someone like a massive cricketer like Mick Jagger or someone like that, did you get to meet a lot of people like that through cricket, like from the music? Yeah,
I mean, a huge amount.
Well, obviously Eric Clapton as well. He was another huge cricket fan, wasn't he?
I met Jagger on my first tour with the West Indies in '97. I met him in Guyana. Just knocking around, on probably while the Test match was on. Actually, we'd go out and find sort of little places to go and eat. It wasn't a huge choice of things to do, so you'd find a sort of like a roadside rum bar or whatever, get some chicken and stuff, and this would be day 2 of the Test match.
Right.
And Jagger strolls in. I literally sort of just sat back and. He recognised Atherton and Stewart and people like that, but I kind of just sort of sat there a little bit awestruck and kind of like, well, I have nothing to say. He knows, has no idea who I am. Funnily enough, I then run into him during the Ashes in one of the hospitality suites a couple of years back, having had my career and whatever and a bit of notoriety as a musician of some type. And he still had no idea who I was. So,
I was so waiting for that, and he pulled out a guitar and we jammed away.
No, but he had incredibly soft hands. And then, would you believe, like really soft, kind of like he spent his entire life
moisturising,
washing up. And then last year, and then the third time that I bumped into Mick. Mark Nicholas, who, commentator, former captain of Hampshire, is now president of the MCC, invited myself and my daughter Alita round to his house for a barbecue during last summer. And who should wander in? But Mick, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did he know
So
who you were that time?
God,
that
please.
time he did, yeah. So third time.
Thank God for that. Because I was going to have to scrap him off the clang list, but now he's back on.
No, all good. And he didn't apologise for the overall at all, but forgive him for that.
Imagine
Getting
how
on
many
a bit,
people
isn't
he
it?
meets. I was going to say, I still love it that they pick him out in the crowd. There he is.
Yeah.
There he is up there.
Yeah.
But the
Well,
crossover was
so
fantastic.
Brian May was up there the other time. I've not sort of bumped into him. But yeah, the thing is that the life, as you well know, Smiley, the lifestyles are pretty similar. You spend a lot of time on the road. You spend a lot of time kind of hanging about and not doing anything. Your part comes along, particularly as a batter.
Yeah.
As I was, your part comes along and can be gone in a heartbeat, and you kind of got more hanging about to do until the next time.
Yeah.
But I do think the two things kind of lend themselves sort of romantically to kind of having long periods of space to sort of like think and ruminate on various things.
Yeah.
And for the musicians, cricket is not, you're not getting horrendously sweaty, are you? It's not sort of like an unedifying thing. There's a little bit of grace in the whites and the sort of swanning around bit, which is very very musical.
Yeah.
Very theatrical. Yeah.
It's the same when people think when you're on tour, it's like this fantastic jamboree of excitement. It's not. It's 2 hours of fun and 22. How many hours in a day? Yeah, 22 hours a day doing. Basically, because it's all about a tour manager said that to me once when I was asking about, are we going to do this, we're going to do this, blah, blah, blah. And he just went, look, I've got to be honest with you. As long as you're on that stage for 2 hours and you do your best, I don't really give a rat's ass what you do for the other 22. As long as you're there, my job is to make sure you're at the side of the stage. I was like, okay, fair enough. So when people ask about, oh man, it must have been amazing. Well, when you're kind of 25 gigs into a 40 gig tour, it all, the place you start getting up later and you kind of you start the novelty of the local culture, it can go out the window a little
all the good intentions at the beginning, isn't it? You kind of you're getting up early, you're going to the gym, you're going for your walks or whatever it might be. The drinking and then gradually as you get sort of midpoint, you kind of like the drinking is starting to take over. You're staying up all night, sleeping all day.
You can't help it.
But to Butch's point, actually, it must be the differentiation being that at least as a drummer, you don't go on stage and then sort of suddenly find you taken off stage after halfway through the first.
It's been close a few times. I've had a few looks of you do that again, and seriously, mate, you're out of here.
You're gone.
It's just when you don't get called for the next tour, that's when you find out. But for the viewers, and they are going up. The viewers out there who want to know the connection. Obviously, you're a singer-songwriter, and a damn fine one at that. So a few years ago, my dear friend Andy Lewis, who used to play with Paul Weller, I'd been introduced to him, and he's a fabulous, crazy cat. Love Andy Lewis, and we got to know each other. We did another couple of projects, and then one day he phoned me. He went, I'm kind of producing somebody, and I think it'd be great if we do it at your studio and you play drums. And I went, all right. Anyone I'd know? He went, Mark Butcher. We'll be there about 10:30. And I just went, Mark Butcher, cricketer Mark Butcher. And he went, yeah. All right, I'll see you at 10:30 tomorrow. And then I had this one night where I just sat there going, is this actually? And then up the garden path he came. And all I remember was... apart from the fact that you are devastatingly handsome, obviously, as you came in, but you were so focused, and I don't know if you even remember this. There was 5 of us in the studio, right? And we set up, and it was all ready to go. And during the day, there was a test match going on, an England test match, right? And about 3 times I said to you, it's 73 for 3, and you were like, whatever. And you were so in the zone with music. You did not care one iota. And it was only when we went out for dinner that night, me, you, and Andy in the Fleet Massive, that I got the chance to actually talk a bit of cricket with you, because you were relaxed, but you were so focused. And I always remember that. We had that was one of the best sessions I've had in there, because we had some brilliant players, didn't we?
We did. I mean, the thing with it is that every time, and this has been going on for for years now, is that every time I kind of do something, either as a new project of my own or kind of turn up to go and play with other people on this kind of stuff, in my mind, I've kind of got to be as good as I am ever going to be on that day, the first time I meet people, because people's perception of people who have played sport and are then kind of dabbling with music and stuff is always that they haven't got any clue what they're doing, and it's all a bit of a vanity project. So for me, it's kind of, I get first day nerves massively whenever I meet you guys and people like that, because I don't want to waste your time. Do you know what I mean? So it's
I think that was what was so special. I think that was what's so special, because we were surrounded by such great players as well, and we were thrown in the deep end. The five of us, we set up and kind of okay, what we're going to do? Well, you kind of went, well, this is how it goes, and you kind of and I remember because you sat with an acoustic guitar and you started playing this tune, and it was like, oh my goodness, your voice. And like, this is going to be amazing. And then Andy Lewis sat there, and it was like, this is just going to get better and better. So I think I can see your point, because I suppose it would be like me going to play a pro celebrity cricket match. You know what I mean? Like, here he comes.
Yeah, you'd be nervous though, wouldn't you? I mean, that's kind of the point. Is that you kind of like, you walk into the dressing room and everyone be kind of like looking at you, and you'd be shitting yourself. Exactly. That's what it's kind of like.
I like that because the second time you came in was brilliant, because obviously we were super at ease with each other by that point, and you rang me up and you went, I need to do an acoustic cover of a Dylan song because they're going to use it for the Ashes. And I went, all right. Came in, and I was standing thinking, how many mics shall I put on the acoustic guitar? And I rang a couple of mates and went, what do I do? And they just went, do what you usually do. It's an acoustic guitar. I went, okay. And then you went, the guy from Sky's coming, he'll be here in a minute. And then I remember just doing it, and then a couple of months later, there it was. It was just like, it was the song of the Ashes.
Yeah,
It was, and
with
it was
with all those incredible visuals behind it.
I know. It was amazing moment. So,
cool.
Pete, ask some clang questions.
Well, no, I was going to say it's about time we kind of like. I mean, I know you've dropped Mick Jagger, which is
he's got a better one than that, because he told me the other day. Talking of famous guitar players, you can tell that one if you want. So you rang me the other day and went, Guess what?
Let's start at the top with your top clang. This across the board top.
My
clang.
my top clang
or clangs.
I mean, there are so many. While I was preparing to come on, they just keep popping up, and one man's clang is another man's turd, isn't it? I suppose so. It always depends on.
Not on this podcast.
Not on this show. But yeah, so I'll start off with one of my favourite ones. Right, it must have been the winter of 1999. Surrey County Cricket Club are invited to Buckingham Palace, right, to go and collect the county championship trophy, as is the tradition. Okay. So you get your little card and you're invited and whatever, and we turn up in our blazers and stuff. And the Queen was supposed to present us with the championship trophy, but unfortunately she was indisposed, and so the Duke of Edinburgh did it. So we get ushered into a side room. Having gone through, I think where the courtyard where the horses went nuts the other day. Ushered in through there and then round into a side room or whatever. No real sort of, didn't get the tour or anything. It was a disgrace. And we're all lined up, and I'm sort of captain of the club for the day, because again my mate Adam Hollyoak was down in Australia at the time, and I'd captained the team for sort of half the summer while he was on World Cup duty and whatever. And so it was a big moment. Surrey hadn't won it for something like 29 years or something. And we did it having to use 21 different players, because we had test call-ups, we had the World Cup, we had all sorts of stuff. So, load of boys are in there, and we're all lined up. And our coach Keith Medicott is walking the Duke of Edinburgh down the line, and he 1, 2, 3, yes, Duke, well done, jolly good, excellent, like this. And he gets to me and he says, "This is Mark Butcher. He's our sort of vice captain. He stood in for the captain of the club, Adam Hollyoak." And he goes, he says, excellent. And he looked up and down the line. He went, "Awful lot of dark chaps in your team, aren't there?"
No insane. Oh God, feel the grief.
To which
goodness.
everybody to a man, right, just fell about laughing. You know what I mean? It was kind of like the most extraordinary icebreaker you could ever come up with.
Man.
And looking back on it now, it's kind of like, oh my God, how extraordinarily racist was that? But
did he get away
that he
with it?
delivered it in such a way with a glint in his eye, whereby you kind of like you were supposed to know that he was joking. But mate, I've never seen sort of like 7, 8, 9, 10 Indian, Pakistani, West Indian looking, you know, mixed race people like myself all just fall about laughing at sort of like one liner like that. And I'm not even sure he meant it, but it doesn't get much better than that. That was.
Well,
that
I
was
was going to say,
quality.
let's go with the idea that he meant it, right? Because that
In
really
his
is a
house,
dude.
yeah, and I think
In
he
his
probably
house,
did.
yeah.
He probably did. You know, but it's my house, my palace. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah,
I'll
and
say what I
hurry
bloody
up,
like.
Lunch is in 10 minutes. Let's flip this on. Because I always wonder what she used to say. Because she would go, when you ever watched her going down the line, she would say like something every fourth person. Like William does it. He'll go, hello, 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 hello. How lovely to see you today. You know, da, 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 da. Oh, isn't the weather nice today? And it's just like, no wonder Harry got out. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not opening another fate. I'm bored. You know, there's nothing in it for me. I'm not getting a slice of the will. I'm there. Oh man, that's great. Can you tell your Eric Clapton story that you rang me so excitedly like a child the other day?
Oh, jeez. Okay,
and you did as well. You were like that.
So,
guess what?
Eric and I met Eric Clapton for the first time probably around about the 2000. And bearing in mind that part of the reason why I sort of, you know, forced my mum to buy me a guitar in the first place around sort of age 11 or 12 was the Blues Breakers record. I kind of got in with a couple of guys at my school, and they were kind of very much into blues music. My best mate at the time, who was a guitar player himself, hated Clapton and hated that album, but somehow I decided I really loved it. So it'd always been this thing. Derek and the Dominoes, Cream, all that kind of stuff as a teenager, which kind of started me off on the road of wanting to play. And I'd met a guy through various means, we might get onto another point, called David English, who managed Eric back in the Robert Stigwood organisation days.
Right.
And Dave was kind of like an impresario. He'd been in various war movies. It wasn't The Bridge Over the River Kwai. It was the other one. What was the other one? Damn, I should know this. But anyway, it's not important to the story. He sort of knew how I felt about the whole Eric thing, and he sat me next to him on a table at a dinner, at which I kind of sat there for agog for about, I don't know, the first 5 or 6 minutes, and then went, sod it. I said to him, like, I need to get this out of the way. I'm Mark Butcher, play cricket for England. He knew who I was. And I said, I'm just going to say it. I think I love you. And let's just leave it at that. Right?
Did you shake his hand really gently?
So, yeah, very
gently.
And he laughed, and I laughed, and then relaxed, and everything was fine, you know. And then over the years, we'd bump into each other from time to time. And it ended up with us sort of having each other's phone numbers, and I'd send him a text on his birthday or whatever. Anyway, this particular year, I was in Tenerife on holiday, and during lockdown, as we all did, we were kind of pissing around with stuff, and I was in the studio, and I remembered a tune called "I Am Yours," which was on the Derek and on the Dominoes album. It was one of the sort of like the quiet, reflective acoustic tunes on that album, and just sort of worked it out. It doesn't sound exactly like the way they did it and whatever. And I'd had it on my phone for 2.5 years or something. And Eric's birthday rolls around, and as I did every year, send him a message, happy birthday, have a great one. He'd always message me back. And we'd have a little chat and that at the end of it. So, happy birthday, Eric. And I thought, you know what? I've had this thing on my phone for 2 years. I'm just gonna send it to him. All right. A little note of apology. Press send. What's the worst that could happen? Anyway, sort of an excruciating half hour goes by. And I'm thinking, I've offended him. I shouldn't have done it. I've overstepped the mark. Anyway, I need to find the response here, because this is why I phoned you.
You were so excited. This is the great thing. You were so excited. You did it twice. You rang me twice within about a week of each other and told me the same story.
So anyway, so I'd sent in the little video of me playing out in my cabin in the studio, right, with the message, "Happy birthday, forgive my indulgence, always love this song, hearty thing." Okay, and so half an hour later, "Wow, that's pretty magnificent, man. Thanks for letting me in on it. Great feeling. Thanks, Mark. Love, E, 3 kisses." And that's my life done right there.
I was going to say,
that's it's all I needed to do.
See you later, Prince Philip.
Cool.
That's it.
No, sorry, mate. That's a proper personal message back from
there
God,
go.
isn't it? Wow,
that was the one.
That's astonishing. So, so can we ask the awkward one, Pete? That's a good sign,
don't ask me, mate. You're in the chair. Go on.
So
you have the spoon.
Your most awkward clang. Is there one that you kind of done the? Oh, I've done a few. Pete's done a few.
Awkward.
Well, it sounds like the Clapton one could almost have gone that. There was that half an hour of thinking that it could have gone that way.
Yeah. Could have ruined what was a very sort of,
The great one would have been to see that he'd read it and he never replied.
Never.
See you later, and you never speak to him again.
No. Well, I mean, Christ, if he doesn't put it in,
do you want to hear mine? That
yeah, go on. Set me off.
Well, you're in it. So I don't know if I ever told you this, but when you lovingly got, I think it was last year or something, you got me and my mate Phil tickets for the Oval for the England game, right?
Oh yeah.
And Phil's like, "I can't believe this. This is amazing." I was like, "He's the greatest guy. If we get to meet him, you'll love him." And then realised quite soon that you were a bit busy because it started raining, right? So I didn't see a minute of cricket that day. But just to show Phil how pally we were, right? I was dying to that I'd hook up with you. But obviously you're a bit busy on those days, right? So anyway, Phil's nudging me with a beer in his hand at about 11:15. He goes, "Hey, look, it's your mate." I went, "Where?" He went, "No, he's in the middle he's in the middle." And there you were with your Sky microphone and everything. And he's like, look, he's interviewing Stokes. And we can see you interviewing Ben, and you're doing your thing. And then Ben walks away, and so does everyone else. You're just standing on your own, right? So I got my phone out, and I texted you and just went, "Oi, Billy, no mates," right? And you took your phone out of your pocket and looked at it and looked around, and Phil just went, "I'm sure he just called you a..." And I was like... And then I thought all day, I hope he didn't say that the wrong way. I don't, yeah. And then it rained all day. I didn't see 1 minute of cricket. So I'm hoping that kind of tickets to see the cricket thing it carries over because I didn't see any cricket.
No,
so basically, I'll be tapping you up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fair enough. We'll find another.
That was hilarious. That was totally hilarious. So
I mean, I can't think of anywhere where afterwards I'd regretted the interaction or whatever. But there's one that sprung to mind. Again, probably about 2002 or something. Myself and Simon Jones are in China Whites after a test match. I can't remember if it was his debut or something. It was against India or Sri Lanka or something like that. It must have been a Lord's game, right? And I think we won. So it would have been 2002. We won at Lord's. Jonesy made his test match debut. Anyway, we're out after the test match and we're properly hammered. And it's a Monday night. As you know, if the game goes the distance, they normally finish on a Monday. So there's no one about whatsoever. So we're up in one of the bars in China Whites. I don't think I'd ever been there before, and I certainly haven't been there since.
Is that because of the story? Yeah.
Well, but yeah, very probably. There's a handful of other people in there. Anyway, one guy comes over, a little short guy comes over, and he starts sort of talking in a really sort of strange way, talking about how intelligent he is and how he speaks French and and how he's incredibly important and people take him the wrong way and all this kind of stuff. And Jonesy, the big Welshman, kind of steps on. He's like, if you don't fuck off, pal, they're going to be taking you anyway. But it ain't going to be the wrong way. It's just going to be to the hospital. Like this. And so, but he persists, this fella. And in the end, I turn around, and I'm kind of pretty good natured, and I just go, fuck off like this. Just leave us alone. Anyway, as we were leaving, somebody comes over and says, you know who that was, don't you? I was like, what? Who was it? I said, that's fucking Mark Owen from Take That. he must have been absolutely off his tits. It was just the most extraordinary. It was the most extraordinary performance. I mean, Jonesy would have killed him. He's a big, strong lad.
He's a big old brute, isn't he?
And he properly must have upset me, because I very, very rarely do something like that. But yeah.
I auditioned for Mark Owen once, and the reason I didn't get it was because I was too tall, apparently. The thing is, I went in with him and his musical director, and I was waiting for this big, and I'd met him through Robbie, and I went in, and they were like, "Hello, mate." He was like, "Hey, mate." I was like, "Yeah, how you doing?" They were like, "So the gigs are like, they start on this date and they go through this date and blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Right," and they went, "Oh, we know you play. We've seen you play with Rob. So you up for it?" I was like, "Yeah, fantastic. All right." And this was through an agent, right, at the time. Mm-hmm. So I walk out. As I walk past Adam Faulkner, the extremely good-looking, shorter drummer bloke I know. Anyway, I walked around for about 5 days thinking, "Oh, Mark Owen's new drummer. Fantastic. This is going to be great." And then it got suspiciously close to where we were supposed to be playing. And I was thinking, I haven't had a call yet. And I rang my agent and said, hi, Smiley. So I got the Mark Owen gig. She went, "No, you didn't." I went, "Oh." She went, "You're too tall. Apparently you thought it'd be a bit embarrassing standing on the stage next to you." Adam got it. Adam's about 5'8", by the way. But better
I'll be sat down. I'll be sitting down.
I don't need to come out. I could stand behind my kit and wave, So there you go. That was an official reason why I didn't get that.
Are you taller than Ash Sohn as well?
No. Ash is about this. Yes, Ash is shorter. We're going to get Ash on this. Actually, we were only saying that this afternoon. Actually, Ash is. Again, see, the shorter drummers are all devastatingly handsome. Like there's a theme going on here, and whereas the tall ones, they're not as handsome.
So that was. So I think you set up a nice little segue there, actually, Smiley, which is like, we did this sort of like the almost clang, and you seem to have this sort of almost endless catalogue of almost.
Bridesmaid, man, bridesmaid, totally.
So, Butch, come on. That almost clang, nearly. That sort of that moment where across cricket, music, whatever.
Well, the one I regret the most is Natalie Imbruglia in a bar in Sydney.
I've met her. She's stunning.
And this was 1996 as well.
Yeah.
Kind of, it only stood out. I read in the papers today, Ted Baker in a bit of trouble. Someone's looking to buy Ted Baker or something. Yeah. And it reminded me of this story because myself, and again, Adam Hollyoak's name comes up again, is that he and I were kind of like the young sort of, trendy lads around town, apparently, but in our early Surrey days. And the Ted Baker were just relaunching themselves then as kind of like the new thing. So we got invited down to the place and they kitted us out with these amazing shirts, various different hues, beautiful materials and all this kind of stuff. So we both went out every night on this A trip in 1996 with these Ted Baker shirts on. And the beauty of them was you could chuck them in a suitcase and you put them on and they come out and be creaseless. Now, amazing. Gentlemen wearing shirts, not only shirts, not T-shirts, also closed-toed shoes and having the shirts ironed in Australia was kind of something of a rarity back in 1996, particularly in Sydney. So we kind of...
my mate Aussie Mick's going to watch this. He's going to love that.
So we stood out an absolute mile. Anyway, we're in this absolutely jam-packed bar in Sydney maybe on a Sunday night. There was the big Sunday session. And we're kind of, squeezing through people or whatever. And this girl with these lamps, you know, unbelievable eyes. Kind of goes, oh, beautiful, lovely shirts, boys, like this. And we kind of like keep wandering on through, and then both of us stop and go, fuck.
No, you didn't know it was her.
That was Natalie Imbruglia, like this. So we kind of like, we got to the other side and we're like, got to drop the drinks and go back and find her, you know what I mean? Go and start the process. And of course she's whirl round and kind of you're trying to battle your way back through the crowd again and nowhere to be seen. But 100% it was her.
You never met her since?
Never met her since, no. No.
She's one of the
There's
most
your
beautiful
almost.
women. Well, that's
quality.
That's good enough for me because I'm out.
Yeah.
She's stunning. Yeah. So, mate, we're gonna have to wrap this up. And I could have gone forever with this. This is amazing. Like, can we just say though? So your new album's coming out, isn't it?
Yes. Tentatively, I will say on September the 30th. So we're kind of
I'm only so excited because I'm on it, by the way.
Because you are on it in spectacular,
and it's brilliant as well.
In spectacular style.
It's a superb album, and I loved
Thanks,
your
brother.
last one. And honestly, I can't wait for this. So we're going to do some shows.
Yeah. I think that I've got a meeting on. Where are we now? We're sort of the 8th or 9th of May. I've got a meeting at the very beginning of June. There'll be a couple of singles in the lead up to the release, and then with a bit of luck, we'll have some shows in there. So as long as you're not swanning it off in the States or whatever, then obviously you're first name on the team sheet.
Fantastic.
Height or no height, hair or no hair.
I've got my my really small platform shoes and a hat. All right. So mate, I can't wait for that. Pete, you're invited. You can be my guest. All right.
Well, I look forward to it. Definitely.
Yeah. Mate, it's been great speaking to you, and I'm sure all my sport and music friends are going to love this podcast. So it's always a pleasure, man. And next time you kind of give me a ring with another clang, we'll share it again. All right. So lovely to see you, mate.
Awesome.
No worries.
Thanks for coming on,
Thanks.
mate.
Good to meet you, Mark.
All right.
And you too.
God
Cheers,
bless,
Pete.
pal. See you soon.
Cheers, Smiley.
Bye. See you, clangers.